Everything has its tides. Everything rises and falls. Cycles continue on. Everything has its seasons. Everything has its opposite poles, right? What did Rocky say in all of those movies? It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep coming forward. Perseverance is what winning is all about. Perseverance and belief in oneself is what winning in life is about. And if you can carry that through everything, then you're a winner. Never say die attitude is something rare. Many can say it. It's hard to embody it. We have this tweet here from Ripple. And it says, Ripple's managing director for Europe at Cindy Young joined a panel at Token 2049. They never stop working. They never stop attempting to bring in big deals. This is why Ripple's at the forefront. This is why, in addition to a whole lot of capital that they had to put forward, but this is why also they've been having a lot of victories over the SEC. A never say die attitude. There's a lot to take from all of these experiences, in addition to possible generational wealth. There's a heck of a lot that has been gathered as far as experience and wisdom throughout all of these ordeals. But just to keep it on crypto mostly, who are they in front of at Token 2049 London? They're in front of big money once again. Big money clients, large financial institutions, banks, governmental officials, sorry about that, regulatory entities. That's who's there. Same thing as CBOS. It was the same thing at Meridian. There's a reason that they're attending these things. I can assure you, these audiences are not filled with the retail investors. They're not. So then it brings to mind so many FUD articles that I've seen lately. Well, I've seen two contrasting things, but one there was much less of than the other. So the lesser was articles, and we covered a few over the last few weeks, where they're telling you that there's so many institutional investors on the side waiting to jump in. That's not going to change because the fundamental nature of the infrastructure of crypto has not changed. The benefits of the bank coins have not changed. Remember, never conflate the bank coins with the rest of crypto and what they're going through. Even when you look at things like what happened with FTX, that has nothing to do with the bank coins. Nothing to do with the bank coins. Now, of course, rogue agents like the SEC may attempt to use certain things, and they have been like a dog off their leash a little bit more lately than usual, of course, because they like to pounce on opportunities. They're opportunistic. But that doesn't change the course of the court case that's going on now. Let the lawyers do their jobs. So far, we've been winning across the board. They said that, you look at the library case that was in First Circuit Court. The Ripple case is in Second Circuit Court. So the lawyers are saying there's some significant differences. Let the lawyers do their job and we'll see how it pans out. They get paid the big bucks to bring home the victories. And so far, they have been successful. But nothing has changed. Nothing. So the greater portion of what I've been seeing in a lot of articles throughout my research is the last few days where they're trying to convince people that all of a sudden, these quote unquote institutional interests, they're beginning to wane. Really? Listen, that is, and they don't clarify. Be careful of that. Be careful at FUD. You know it, but there may be some new people here who don't know. They're trying to shake the people out. I don't think this is the big one. I don't, not at all. I'm being honest with you. FTX is not the big one. It's big, it's major, it's huge. Yeah, it's definitely shaking up the crypto industry. Is it the big one? No, the big one, in my humble opinion, is something outside of crypto. There's too many catalysts outside of crypto. Those are the big ones. Regional conflicts, national conflicts, it's all there. Shortages of various kinds or alleged shortages. We've been talking about that. Now, those are huge issues. Alleged diesel shortages, the drying up of certain rivers, making it hard for barges to bring in certain materials, certain products. That's something that they're not discussing. Listen, the things that are typically very, very important, they don't discuss. Things that are very devastating, it could be a bad for their image, like these politicians, bad for their image. They don't really discuss those. They keep them quiet. They make sure the news media doesn't discuss them. But all it takes for you is to do a little bit of research and you'll see that. Those are the big ones. Those are huge catalysts that can rock the world. Not crypto, the world. And of course, if it's rocking the world, it will also rock crypto. Those are the big ones. Those are the big catalysts, negative catalysts that I look at and have said for over a year to be careful of. Be very, very careful of. But yeah, the FTX is big in its own right, but is it the big one? No, in my humble opinion, no. And I hope that the big one doesn't occur. I hope not. But as I said, there's a lot of catalysts. Anyway, none of that so far has changed the course of the bank coins at all. This shows Ripple continues to go forward. Ripple continues to be gleeful, confident. Why? Because they understand they're in a completely different class. XRP, Quant, XLM, Hidden, where they have deals signed with banks, signed with governments. That doesn't just change. You don't just renege on a contract like that. People wish it was that simple. Sure, yeah, you wish it was that simple. Ripple already has over 400. This was on their website. Over 400 financial institutions signed up. This is what they said. You don't just renege on contracts like that. It doesn't. So what affects the regular markets doesn't affect the bank coins. They were never meant for retail, and the larger institutions aren't affected by what retail is affected by. Right? That's how I look at it. I could be wrong. You tell me. Let's move on to this next article here, right? So then we have this here. This is from Ripple.com. Diversity in crypto and Web3, a discussion with Brazil's tech community. Now, we've covered Brazil extensively over this last year and some months. What do we know about Brazil? It is the digital hub in South America. It has the biggest digital bank in South America. Who else is deep there in Brazil? Algorand via Coinbanks is deep in Brazil. Who is also deep in Brazil? Stellar is deep in Brazil. Remember, Stellar over the summer participated in that contest to assist them with development of what? Of development with their CBDC. Now, I think they went in a different direction, but still, it doesn't take the roots of Stellar out of Brazil. And of course, we all know, Ripple is deep in Brazil. So, but here, let's read this little tidbit here, right? Brazil is setting the pace when it comes to the adoption of crypto. In fact, the Latin American nation is one of the top 10 fastest adopters of crypto. We were talking about that. And this year, crypto-enabled payment solutions were introduced to the country via Ripple's partnership with TravelX Bank. We've covered them before. We need to get an update on them also. Look at their financials. Just take a little look at maybe some new things they're working on, how much capital is flowing through them. I know they have to grow, but I'm keeping an eye on the growth because I want that money. I want to know how much is coming in. I want to know how much it can budge that price. Then I take that data and I add it to the allotment of other calculations that I've made based on other banks. And then I have a better idea of where I think that price can be in the future. It always has to adjust. If a bank makes a little bit more money or they take a step back from how much capital they were bringing in, all of that matters in my humble opinion. So let's continue on here. The first bank in Latin America to utilize Ripple's cross-border payment solution for faster, more affordable remittances and international payments. This is huge. In light of these developments and in a celebration of Hispanic and U.S. Latin American Heritage Month, the Amigas and Black at Ripple employee resource groups, ERGs, hosted an intersectional conversation with esteemed Brazilian blockchain researchers. So they're getting in deep. Brazil is making huge strides in Web3. We all know Web3 is going to move so much value, it's ridiculous. And crypto adoption. And despite the country's somewhat turbulent economic history, Brazilians are taking control of their own financial future. Well, this is happening all over Latin America, South America, Central America, Africa, Southeast Asia. It's happening everywhere. The only place where they're really dragging their feet is the West. The United States and Europe. That's it. I mean, I suppose they want to fall on their sword. And I'm telling you now, I'll say this. I said it many times. I'm going to say it again. The United States and Europe, if they don't act on these things, you're going to see a mass exodus. Now, listen. There's going to be a lot of people who have one living quarters in the United States or Europe, and then another living quarters, or maybe even two, in other places. If they continue to wreck the people when it comes to crypto and have overreach and not treat the people correctly, I'm telling you now, mark my words, there's going to be a mass exodus of people out of the United States. No, they won't have a living quarters in the United States. No, they might even give up their citizenship. They'll be wealthy, so it won't matter. And that whole facade of, oh, well, the United States and Europe is the best. When you have money, a lot of places are pretty good, honestly. Right. And you're going to have massive amount of people moving to places like Mexico and other places in South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and living like kings and gods and queens in those other places, right, where they're more friendly to crypto investors, crypto developers, crypto exchanges. Mass exodus. That I'm calling it. So let's continue on here. So it says Brazil is often referred to as a cultural melting pot. We all know that. This has influenced just about every aspect of Brazilian life. Come on, I'm going to scroll down. Bear with me. Andre Benedetti, XRPL grants recipient and CEO at Cryptum, an API for integrating the XRP ledger with a variety of applications, said at first crypto was depicted as a bubble to get quick money. This depicted, that's important. It's not how it was in actuality, which was hurtful to the country's adoption. See, who was depicting it? Media, politicians who benefit from the legacy system. You saw what was happening with FTX, how they put money in politicians' pockets. They wanted centralization. It was terrible what they were trying to do, but they've been exposed. There's a lot of YouTubers right now. They put out some, holy smokes, they put out some videos exposing them to their core. And they also put out some very disturbing information about Gary Gensler. Holy smoke. You can't always see these individuals coming. When Gary Gensler first started out and he was inside of a college, right, teaching, he sounded very friendly to crypto. But everything changes. We've seen this time and time again. When people get money in their pocket, they get a little bit of power, then the true them comes out. When people get a lot of money in their pocket, sometimes they're able to betray every ounce of what they are. So this article here says, Ripple top exec makes surprising offer to FTX employees as exchange files for bankruptcy. So let's read this little tidbit here. Ripple Chief Technology Officer David Schwartz has indicated that FTX employees are welcome to pursue careers at the blockchain cross-border payments company after the epic collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's empire. This is just a smart move. Listen, the employees don't necessarily have anything to do with what the people at the top were doing. All those, I won't say all, but most of those big moves, if you saw what was going on, and it was very sketchy, in my humble opinion. If you saw what was going on, those are directives from the top. That has nothing to do with these little employees, right? I don't mean that, but I mean like they're not like CEOs, COOs. That's what I mean. No disrespect. So this is just a smart move. If any of them are still interested in working in crypto after this, what better company than a company that's backed by like hundreds of large financial institutions, regulatory compliant. They have a bright future. They probably pay very, very well. I mean, and the future is secure when it comes to Ripple. So, I think this is a very, very good thing that David Schwartz did. So now let's continue on here. And you know what's important about that is, in my opinion, if we do wind up bringing some people over, maybe it might be announced who they are. And then we can look into them and see how they benefit us as XRP holders, because every single piece of the puzzle matters. I'm telling you right now, whether it's developers or designers, marketing experts, all of it matters at this point. We need as much as we can get. We'll take as much as we can get. It gets us closer to that generational wealth. right? So I think that's important. So now let's move on to a little bit of Stellar news. Now, if you went to Stellar's Twitter, right, you saw this little video that they posted, and it's actually they didn't post it. Denell Dixon posted it. They retweeted it, and at the top it says, "We're not new to this," right? Watch that video. There's some. Listen. How's it they say? 98% of communication is nonverbal? Something like that? Watch this video, listen to what Denell Dixon is saying, but look at her face. Look at how she's moving when she says these things. You ever watch a person when they're thinking about two things at once, right? They have to watch what they say. And also some things that they're saying is in contradiction to what's actually happening. There's a part in here when she says, watch it closely. When she says, we're here to do some, she pauses. And then she says, good. You'll understand the part that I'm talking about when you see it. She pauses and she thinks before she says, good. Now, my thoughts on that are, Stellar's in bed with so many governments, so many central banks, anybody with morality, anybody with ethics, right, has to stop and pause and think to themselves after a while of dealing with all these horrible people. Are we still really doing good? I mean, we started out that way, but are we really still doing good? Now, what's important about that is if I'm correct in my estimation, they're in bed with so many banks and so many governments behind the scenes. It's disgusting. They just haven't been able to announce all of them. Don't get me wrong. We've uncovered a good deal of things here, and we've witnessed a good deal of things in our time researching Stellar, from their work with the central banks, entering different contests, like the contest they were entered in with the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Then they were tested in some CBDC contests in Australia, I believe, at one point. Worked with the oldest bank in Europe, Bankhaus Vonderheit, Tascom Bank in Ukraine, which also is linked to a few other banks. Obviously, it's a full infrastructure over there. IBM, Everynet, Lightnet, Velo, Interstellar, like Ultrastellar. I mean, we've gone over a lot of things, but obviously there's a lot that they can't say. But if I am correct, and it's gotten that deep, they've gone that deep down the rabbit hole, then at least in the way of that price exploding, that will be very, very good. Like, just recount what I just said. Like, not recount, but like rethink what I said, right? They're in so deep with the governments and banks that she can't even just outright just say, yeah, we're going to do good. She had to pause. It's like one of those pauses where you think to yourself, are we really still doing good? Then she said good. Look at the energy on her face. It's not just about being worn out. I've been worn down to the nub many a times. But when I'm passionate about something and I really believe it, it's still going to come out the same way. You understand? I've been absolutely exhausted at times where I feel like I'm like sleep on my feet. But when it's time for me to speak on things that I believe in, I'm passionate about, it comes out the same way. It did not come out that way this time. Why? Right? You saw them get close to the CFTC. I'm telling you, they're in deep. They're in deeper than they want to say. And they really don't have to. They really don't have to. That's the thing. Because they're so decentralized, it doesn't even matter. Right? It's on the companies to come out with that at the proper time, probably when there's regulatory clarity. So then also, Denell goes on to tell them, and look at the energy. Just watch the energy when she says, it doesn't mean your companies have to have the same mission, right? She's talking about Stellar been on this mission to bank the unbanked and things of that nature, right? Then she says, look at the energy of when she says this, right? She said, it doesn't mean that your companies have to be. That's frustration. That's frustration. Why? Which companies don't? You tell me, which companies would frustrate her because they're not interested in banking the unbanked? Governments and banks. They're worried about interbank payments. They're worried about their legacy system counterparts benefiting. They don't care about the people on the ground. Let me tell you something. That's a guise. That's an illusion when they say that. They have to do that so that people still like them and want to give them their money, put money in checking accounts and savings accounts. They don't want to step on the toes. Also, if they're central banks, they don't want to step on the toes of the commercial banks, public and private. They don't want to step on their toes. So they have to say, oh, we care about you and we want to save you, save the planet. And yet they do none of that. They do none of that. They make sure that people are oppressed. This is just my humble observances. Hey, listen, they'll tell you, hey, don't drive your Toyota, but they definitely will fly on that private jet. Which one is using more fuel? Which one's putting more dirt in the atmosphere, so to speak? All right, now, so I just want to put that out there. She would be frustrated. I would think anybody would be frustrated dealing with them because, you know, it's you're sort of shaking hands with the devil, so to speak. You get what I'm saying? Not a joke at all. Not a joke. Okay. But watch the energy when she says that. That also indicates, just my humble opinion. All right. You can watch the same video and you may come to a different conclusion. But why would she be frustrated if the only institutions she's dealing with are the ones who want to bank the unbanked? They're not. They're not. Governments have been coming to Stellar. You saw when they went to that meeting with the government of the United States, that senator, believe it was a senator from Texas or someone or a congressman, whatever. There was some politician, you could watch the video yourself, that told Denell Dixon they were interested in Stellar and would like to speak to her later on. That's after the panel. Later on about it more. Why? That's a governmental official. These are the individuals they've had to deal with, specifically Denell Dixon. This video, in my opinion, told me a lot. Now it's just a matter. Now, I could be completely wrong. All right, let me put that out there. I have to be balanced. I could be completely wrong. But now all it takes is confirmation. And I'll say this also. Because some people may say, well, Mick, you know, you may be reading too much into that. That's possible. That's possible. But I'll say this. On this channel, we've made a lot of good calls. Haven't we? Remember when everything was still simmering? It didn't really explode. There was no parabolic runs. And I was talking about Batcoin. Then boom, Batcoin went off, right? Right? That was from research. Then I was talking about Algorand before it went off. Then it boom, boom, boom. It went off a couple times. That went off, right? Then I was talking about even XLM, same thing. Boom, it went off. It had a little bit of a run, right? XRP. What else did we call Zilliqa? People said, no, Mick, Zilliqa's not the one. And I said, hey, listen, look at what they're doing with the Metopolis and such like that. Boom. Then right before everything was about to crash, Zilliqa went off in that January of this year, right? Early on. It was like the end of December, early January. That was a good call. I'm just saying, I'm not, in all humility, I'm just trying to show we've made a lot of good calls is what I'm saying. Remember, before this was really a hot topic, I was talking about MBDCs and MCBDCs. Then what happened? Then they came out. Hey, we got MCBDCs, multi-central bank digital currencies. And remember that? You can go back and watch those videos. Look at all the research, all the documents we went over at that time. That was a good call. I'm just saying we made a lot of good calls here. So I'm leaning towards, I think we might be making another good call here. So there was something else in this video. It's a 48-second video. Watch it. Watch it. There's a lot of things that are, I want to say, out of place. Like the energy of Denell when she says certain things. It's very telling. I'll say that. It's very telling. Right? I'll leave it at that. Maybe I'm reaching. I don't think I am. Let's move on here. Now we got a little Algorand news. So this says here, Algorand NFTs are now fully supported in @Algo Explorer. They continue to move forward with NFTs. Algorand is going to be very, very powerful when it comes to NFTs in a variety of ways. But if you remember, if you didn't watch that last video I just did, and we did have a little fun on that video. So hopefully you enjoy it. If you do, click that like button. Also click the like button on this video. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. But it was either that video or the one before it. We covered an article where Algorand goes even deeper into the medical industry. You understand how much value is there that we could take from there? How much volume and consistent value? They're going to need us for everything. Congealing of information, charts, making sure charts are transparent for the patient and available for all patients. They talked about that. Traceability, right? Keeping track of everything in the hospital, gowns, instruments, even shots and things like that, vials of chemicals and things that they need. Traceability, we do that also. I mean, my goodness. So most of that, I would think a lot of that value is going to flow through NFTs, right? Because NFTs are tied to physical things as well. You want a gown here? Okay, purchase your gown as an NFT, boom, and here you go. It doesn't have, or not NFT, sorry about that. It don't have to be, there's a myriad of ways they can do it, correct? But a lot of value is going to flow through Algorand because of that, and just in my humble opinion. Then incentives, like you go to, never write off incentives. You go to your dentist, especially when it comes to children, right? So most of the children these days, you use their cell phones for almost everything. So now they go to the dentist, and the dentist or hospital infrastructure is built on Algorand, right? So now instead of the dentist giving your child a sticker because, yucky stickers, germs, you get a lot of people are like that right now. They still want to give the child something. So here's a little NFT, NFT of your favorite cartoon character, NFT here. Yeah, send it right to their phone. You see? But the doctors paid for that NFT. That NFT value had to move from somewhere else across Algorand in order for them to even have it to give to that child. You see where I'm going? There is so much that could be done. This is why they continue to storm forward with their NFT domination. I love every little bit of it. Algorand has been absolutely brilliant. I'm happy with everything they've been doing, to be quite honest. So then you have this tweet also from Algorand. It says, quote, like all rollups, the A1 rollup inherits the security of the layer 1 chain. So right here, they're highlighting the security of Algorand. I told you, the bank coins, we have the best security. Not only that, when we're talking specifically about Algorand, keep in mind, there is a massive quantum computing problem coming. Algorand is quantum proof. Algorand and Hedera right now are the two that I recall that are quantum proof. Quantum computers cannot break into them, cannot shatter them, cannot damage them as of right now. So we have better security than most when almost everything else is going to be vulnerable, except for the bank coins, of course. And we have to have that high level security, like XDC. I believe they have military grade security. Then you have Hedera, who's touting that they have bank. Did they say bank grade security? Our security is way better than the banks. The banks are terrible, but I understand why they would say that. We have the best security for moving value, for traceability, right? So I like this here from Milk Omeda, right? And it says, these protocol parameters allowed us to build an effective rollup on Algorand. Algorand is going to continue to dominate. I love every second of it. So now let's go on here. So now we have this article here. This is from Quant Network. And it says, our chief product officer at Tech MJH recently spoke to at IPE News on the tokenization of private markets. Martin thinks that blockchain will transform financial services, and regulation will improve trust to accelerate industry adoption. We certainly agree. This is from Quant. All the banks understand this is why they're utilizing distributed ledger technologies, mostly in blockchain form. Of course, you do have some banks that are working with Hashgraph, and Hedera, like the biggest bank in South Africa by assets, is working with Hedera, right? Then you have Hedera also just had a meeting in the United Arab Emirates with the royals. So you have that. So you have various DLTs being utilized, and you do have a few, I believe, commercial banks, not central. I'm not sure, though. Don't quote me on that. You have a few of them still trying to utilize consensus, but we have seen how that has gone in the past, and it hasn't fared very well. So I agree with this. Quant continues to scream at the top of its lungs that mass adoption is coming, that blockchain is going to transform the financial services industry. And with as many banks as Quant has access to, yeah, I think they're definitely going to do that. And I'm very excited about the future of Quant. I'm not worried about any of these little tiny dips in price. Is good because people were able to pick up some more who didn't have a whole lot of Quant, and they were also a lot of people didn't get to scoop up all of that Quant at $40, $45 like a lot of us did, because they believed that Quant could go lower. There were so many people saying Quant was going to go lower than 40 at that time and drop down to 20. I remember reading it. No, Quant's going to drop down to 20. So people waited and waited, and then Quant just skyrocketed. So the little dips have been good for people that need to accumulate more before they flip the switch, so to speak, right? And Quant can explode in price so easily. You've already gotten a taste of that. Now, just imagine when there's regulatory clarity or mass adoption. Imagine if one bank just starts using Quant and just says, you know what, we're not waiting anymore. Let's use Overledger. If even one, holy smokes. You saw retail push Quant's price up past $400 before, right? You saw what retail did to Quant recently. Imagine one bank. Imagine one. Now, just keep in mind, Quant has access to over 500. I'm not saying 500 are going to use Quant, but they have access via SIA Chain and SIA Partners. Look it up for yourself, okay? So you can see. But we've posted the documents many times on the channel, articles, and SIA Chain and SIA Partners are easily looked up. LAC Chain also are easily Google searched. Very easy. For anybody who needs further clarification. So now let's move on to some regular news here. Crypto.com reveals partial proof of reserves to dispel insolvency rumors. Then I'm just going to jump past that and go right here because they both sort of go together. Tether shows that they have strong reserves, increased vouchers. It's from cryptonomist.ch. So everybody's coming out and showing, hey, we actually have a liquidity. We actually have the funds. All right. So, yeah, FTX is FTX. And yes, there's a lot of companies that had exposure to FTX. That has nothing to do with the bank coins. Has nothing to do with these other exchanges, which they know how to protect themselves. Don't say that. So now let's go on here. So this article is titled New York Fed and Monetary Authority of Singapore collaborate to explore potential enhancements to cross-border payments using wholesale CBDCs. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's New York Innovation Center and Monetary Authority of Singapore today announced Project Cedar Phase 2 and Ubin Plus, a joint experiment to investigate how wholesale central bank digital currencies could improve the efficiency of cross-border wholesale payments involving multiple currencies. This is very, very good. Who do you think is going to benefit the most from this? Wholesale CBDCs. I would say something like XRP. And they're going to be dealing a lot with when they're sending money all over the place. Definitely Europe is one of them. So then Quant will be involved. Quant is in deep with the Bank of England and a whole lot of other, UK, Europe. Also, Quant is in deep in Europe. They're on the Digital Euro Association, right? Just like Ripple is as well. I mean, this could be a huge thing that we need to keep our eye on. So it's called Project Cedar Phase 2, all right? We need to look into this a little bit deeper. It says leveraging WCBDCs as a settlement asset, the effort which entails establishing connectivity across multiple heterogeneous simulated currency ledgers aims to significantly reduce settlement risk, a key pain point in cross-border currency transactions. Experimentation across the central banking community is vital to leverage the full potential of digital assets and CBDCs in particular. Let's scroll down a little bit more. See if we have something else here. It says the experiment is not intended to advance any specific policy outcome, nor is it intended to signal that the Federal Reserve will make any imminent decisions about the appropriateness of issuing a retail or wholesale CBDC, nor how one would necessarily be designed. Right. So you just did this just for fun? Project Cedar is a multi-phase research effort to develop a technical framework for a theoretical WCBDC in the Federal Reserve context and aims to contribute to a broad, transparent public dialogue about CBDC from a technical perspective. Phase 1 of Project Cedar found that using a WCBDC prototype to facilitate transactions supported by the blockchain technology could improve the speed and safety of cross-border wholesale payments. Ubin Plus is MAS collaborative initiative with international partners to improve the efficiency and reduce the risk of cross-border foreign exchange settlement by advancing cross-border connectivity and interoperability of wholesale digital currencies. They're going to definitely need the bank coins. Interoperability, how are they going to do that with a lot of the banks that are going fully digital? You have the oldest bank in Europe making a big push to become fully digital, and utilizing blockchain technologies. Of course, they're using Stellar. You have a lot of banks that are doing that now, like the biggest bank by digital assets in Brazil. Brazil is getting deep, and so that bank is going to become more and more powerful. Many banks will begin to move into the metaverse as well, so they will also become mostly digital, which means that they're going to want, listen, the commercial banks are going to want to access that value from the underbanked and all these different corridors because they're doing very badly and they need as much capital as possible. They're not going to take that off the table, and I doubt that they're going to allow the central banks to cut them off from that type of liquidity, that type of capital as well. They're not going to allow that. They've already been going rogue against the central bank. So they're going to be utilizing these particular bank coins to a massive degree, in my humble opinion, as well. So that type of value, right, that is going to flow from the west to the east and back again to unaccessed corridors is going to be massively explosive when it comes to the prices of the bank coin. Just my humble opinion. That's how I look at it. And it's mainly because there must be seamless flow. So you can't have the legacy aspect of this cut off from the digital aspect, the fully digital aspect. Also, you have crypto offerings like SLCX, right? Which is either a bank or trying to become a bank. According to the World Economic Forum, it's a bank, right? And they have already met, I think, multiples of criteria for becoming a bank. They are a distributed ledger technology exchange. Also, they have the DeFi exchange, but they're also going to be a DLT bank, or if they're not already a DLT bank, right? So what I'm saying is it's the rise. What we're seeing is the rise of legacy system banks and new era banks both becoming fully digitized. And when I say digitized, I mean on the blockchain or on the hash graph, whichever they choose, doesn't make a difference. Either way, any of these coins go off where we are well diversified and will benefit from any of them. So that's my humble thoughts. Hopefully I spoke with a little bit of clarity. And it is titled Gold races for best week since March 2020 on Fed slowdown hopes. Gold prices extended gains to a near 3-month high on Friday, and we're heading for their best week in over 2.5 years, as signs of cooling U.S. inflation bolstered bets that the Federal Reserve would be less hawkish on rate hikes going forward. Listen, I would love to have fun. I mean, they really shouldn't do that. And I saw a certain politician over in England tell some other individuals from the Bank of England that they should not slow down rate increases. And I agree with that. If you really want to bring inflation down, but if they do slow it down, I expect inflation to explode again. However, at this point, they're highly unpredictable based upon what they say. If we go by what they do, they're just going to continue to do the same types of increases that they've been doing. But if you go by what they say, it's very confusing. 1 minute, the Fed out of the United States, which seems to be the leader, seems dovish. 1 minute, they seem hawkish. Who knows? We have to wait and see. But sure. If they took their foot off the gas pedal, it would make things a little bit fun, a little bit interesting for a short while. Spot gold gained 0.7% to $1,766 per ounce. It says after hitting its highest since August 18th earlier in the session, Bullion is up over 5% so far this week. Looking good. All right. U.S. gold futures settle up 0.9% at $1,769. Quote, here's a quote. We are seeing a follow through in gold prices on yesterday's CPI data. A weaker dollar. Well, let me also add in that gold is a very, very wise safe haven. You get in at a low. It's one of the safest places for people to retreat like they did from crypto and park their money there and not have to really worry too much. Don't get me wrong. You still have fluctuations in price, but it's pretty safe if you get in at the right time. It's very safe, actually, if you get in at the right time. So I think that also is adding to this. But let's continue on here. It says weaker dollar and the likelihood that the Fed is going to do a 0.5 point rate hike versus 75 basis points hike, said Bob Habercorn, senior market strategist at RJO Futures. Okay, yeah. So, I agree with some of that. No problem. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. I'm about to go relax or something, maybe even watch a movie. Estoy cansado. I'm very tired right now. So I wasn't tired when I started the video, but stress makes me tired, right? And like when I was reading, it was one of these articles here, man. I could just feel the waves of stress just wash over me, especially that White House thing. It's like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Come on, you could do much more. But so anyway, that wears me out. So, estoy cansado. Now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, let's get to the money.